Hey there! XRP is absolutely crushing it right now, and I'm excited to break down exactly why. Now, I know some of you might be feeling a bit nervous because XRP hit that amazing all-time high of around $3.65 just the other day, and now we're sitting at $3.43. But here's the thing, don't let that little dip throw you off. That's totally normal in crypto. Here's what's really exciting. I've been chatting with some seriously talented chart analysts, and guess what? They're all pretty bullish on where XRP is headed in the short term. We're talking about some potentially amazing price action coming up. Look, I know the all-time highs are super exciting, and we'll definitely dive deeper into that in another video. But if you're sitting there wondering what's next for XRP, you're in exactly the right place. When we're talking short-term potential here, we could be looking at XRP nearly doubling from where it is right now. Actually, there's this one analyst whose insights I'm really excited to share with you. He's thinking we could see XRP hit $5.50 in the short term. And get this, that's not even where he thinks it'll top out. We're literally just talking about the near future here. Now, here's something really fascinating when you look at the historical patterns. There's a good chance this XRP cycle might wrap up faster than we expect. And honestly, I think that's fantastic news. Why? Because it means we could see those life-changing gains happen sooner rather than later. All those incredible, heart-pumping moments we've been waiting for, they're right around the corner. That's exactly what we're dealing with right now. And it's pretty thrilling when you think about it. So I wanted to jump on here with a quick update to share what some of these really solid chart analysts are saying. And hey, if you've been feeling a little uneasy because XRP has been kind of sideways the past few days, totally get it. But here's the thing. You really don't need to stress about it. But hey, before we dive any deeper, I've got to throw out my usual disclaimer. And this is super important. I'm definitely not a financial advisor or anything like that. I don't have any formal financial background, so please don't take anything I'm saying as investment advice. Whatever you decide to do with your money, whether that's buying, selling, or just holding, that's 100% your call, not mine. Just to give you a snapshot of where we are right now as I'm making this video, XRP is sitting pretty at $3.43. And Bitcoin is hanging out just above $118,000. So yeah, we're basically having another one of those sideways trading days where not a whole lot is happening price-wise. So check this out. I came across this post from Credible Crypto that he shared yesterday, and it's all about Bitcoin. Now, I'm bringing this up because, let's be honest, Bitcoin pretty much calls the shots for the entire crypto market. When Bitcoin decides to absolutely rocket to the moon, even more than it already has, that's fantastic news for XRP. And that's really why I'm paying attention to this. Don't get me wrong, I've got some Bitcoin in my portfolio too, so of course I'd love to see it climb higher. But honestly, I'm way more pumped about what this could mean for XRP. That's where my real excitement is. And here's something that's got me really intrigued. Look at where we are right now. Bitcoin's cruising above $118,000. XRP is chilling at $3.43. And guess what? We're not seeing any of those classic top of the cycle warning signs. Isn't that wild? Think about it for a second. XRP is sitting there at $3.43, cool as a cucumber. We're not seeing crazy overheated conditions. The RSI isn't screaming overbought or anything dramatic like that. XRP is literally just hanging out, not even looking stressed about it. Now, could it dip a little lower in the short term? Sure, absolutely possible. And I'll get into that in just a bit, but either way, the overall trend is definitely heading up. I mean, that's pretty much a given at this point. So let me share what Credible Crypto had to say about Bitcoin because it's actually really interesting. He wrote, long sum Bitcoin here. I know everyone is eyeing up a sweep of the 115,000 lows for an entry. And when we are this bullish, it is not uncommon to front run those ideal entries. I do think it's possible we are seeing a truncated ABC here. This would not be the first time that I've seen it in similar market contexts. So here's what he's getting at, and I think it's pretty smart. Tons of people are sitting around waiting for Bitcoin to drop down to $115,000 so they can jump in at what they think will be the perfect entry point. But here's the thing. When the market is this bullish and everyone's expecting the same thing to happen, the market often has other plans. So we're in bull mode right now, and prices are surging even higher. You know what's really interesting about this truncated ABC pattern he mentioned? It actually reminded me of something the blockchain backer brought up recently. Remember that longer ABC correction he was tracking all the way back to November? Well, that one wrapped up, and then boom, XRP absolutely rocketed up, hit new all-time highs, and finally entered price discovery mode. But then he spotted another ABC pattern forming, this time a much shorter one. That's exactly what Credible Crypto is talking about too, which really caught my attention. Both of these guys are fantastic chart analysts, and they're basically saying the same thing about what's happening short-term with Bitcoin. We might see a bit more of this pattern, but then it's back to climbing higher. This new ABC would be way shorter than that big one from February that the blockchain backer first started discussing. Just thought that connection was worth pointing out. So TechDev just dropped something pretty exciting for his 536,000 followers on X. He's talking about altcoins, and what he said is fascinating. We're seeing a macro altcoin expansion that we haven't witnessed since late 2020. But here's the kicker. This one's happening after a massive 4-year coil, which is actually the longest we've ever seen in history. Now, here's why this is such a big deal. The longer something stays coiled up and consolidates, and we're talking altcoins here, the more explosive the breakout becomes when it finally happens. Think of it like a spring that's been compressed for ages. And get this, we're looking at the longest consolidation period in crypto history. Plus, if you check out where global M2 is right now, it's absolutely through the roof. The really cool thing is that crypto has been tracking super closely with global M2 for over a decade now, so this all lines up perfectly. So what happens next? This thing's about to go into full send mode. That's exactly what's coming. And XRP, it's absolutely part of this bigger picture. Here's what makes this even more exciting. TechDev isn't posting analysis like this every single day. He only shares insights like this during those rare, special moments when everything's lining up perfectly. And right now, this is definitely one of those moments. The thing is, it's going to fly by faster than you think. You'll want to just sit back and enjoy watching it all unfold because these incredible runs are pretty fleeting. You know how it goes. You'll look back in a few months and be like, wait, that's already over? That felt so quick. But here's the beautiful part. You get that life-changing month that makes it all worth it. And then when the bear market rolls around again, you get to do this whole exciting cycle over again. There's always fresh opportunity waiting around the corner. So Mustache just posted something really interesting about the crypto total market cap. But here's the thing. He's excluding Bitcoin from this chart. We're looking at all the altcoins here, specifically the top 125 coins without Bitcoin. This chart's called Total 2. Here's what he said. Total 2 repeats the structure of the last 2 cycles. The relative strength index also makes very similar moves. We're not ready for this. Okay, hold up. Speak for yourself, Mustache. I'm absolutely ready for this. I've been ready for ages, honestly. Look, I'm a pretty patient person. I don't get all antsy and impatient, but man, I have been ready for this for such a long time. And when you actually look at the chart, you can totally see what he's getting at. The patterns are pretty clear once you spot them. You see this gradual uptrend that plays out over several years. It happened this cycle, last cycle, and the cycle before that too. And that's exactly where we are right now. But here's where it gets really exciting. We're about to hit the most incredible part where everything just absolutely blasts off. That's what's coming up for us. It's like they say, history doesn't repeat exactly, but it definitely rhymes with itself. And you can see it playing out right here. Now check out the relative strength index at the bottom. This is what he's really highlighting. In every single cycle, you get these 2 major local bursts in the RSI, and then boom, it goes completely nuts after that. And guess what? That's exactly what's coming next. When you compare this to the previous cycle and then the one before that, it's honestly mind-blowing. The same pattern is happening all over again. So the blockchain backer posted something really interesting. He was talking about getting 2 daily closes above the all-time high for XRP. Now, he posted that yesterday evening, but here's what's even better. Since then, we've had another day wrap up, and guess what? We've now got 3 closes above the all-time high. 3 days in a row, folks. That's some serious strength right there. It just makes perfect sense to think we're probably going to see this thing keep climbing higher pretty soon. That's totally within what we'd expect, historically speaking. Now, don't get me wrong. We could still see a little dip here and there. I mean, just in the past few days, XRP has dropped down to around $3.35, or maybe even a bit lower at times. But here's the key thing. Look at where it's been closing each day. Right above those highs every single time. So this is totally normal. Don't panic if XRP dips a little lower. We're in a bull market, people. This party is far from over. We're just talking short-term moves here. But yeah, if you're wondering, we're eventually going to see one of those crazy blow-off tops. Now, look, I don't do price predictions. I've never made a price prediction because honestly, I just don't know what's going to happen. What I will talk about is what seems realistic to me, and that's about as far as I'll go. But here's what I will say, double-digit price action, that's not even remotely unreasonable to expect. Just look at the history. When you consider growth and market cap expansion, we've seen this level of explosive movement happen multiple times throughout crypto's history. And here's the game changer. XRP isn't being held back anymore. We're finally on a level playing field. The war on crypto? It's over. With all those regulatory chains off, there's honestly no reason why XRP shouldn't just absolutely rocket to the moon. It makes total sense when you think about it. So here's a post from chart analyst Greg Crypto. He's definitely an XRP bull, by the way. And get this, this is literally the most bearish post I could find from him. And it's not even actually bearish. He's just discussing where XRP might potentially bottom out in the short term if it does pull back a bit. I figured I'd start with this one since it's about as cautious as it gets from the XRP community right now. After we go through this, we'll dive into the short-term targets because, man, I've got a whole bunch of those lined up from like 4 or 5 other analysts. And just to be crystal clear here, Greg Crypto absolutely believes we're going to see double-digit price action this cycle. That's what he thinks is most likely to happen. I'm just highlighting this post and mentioning what I did to make a really important point. I literally cannot find bearish outlooks for XRP right now. Either they just don't exist or they're so incredibly rare that I'm completely missing them. Seriously, show me one reputable analyst who's actually predicting that XRP is done for and heading downhill. Just find me one person. If you can find one, I'll absolutely share it on my channel. I'm totally fine with sharing different perspectives, even when they sound negative for XRP. I've always been open about that stuff. But here's the thing. I can't find any because honestly, nobody actually believes that's going to happen. And why would they? That would be a pretty ridiculous thing to believe at this point. At this point, that would be a pretty silly thing to believe, and nobody wants to stick their neck out like that. Usually, you'll at least find people saying negative stuff about XRP during the quiet times when there's no major price action happening. You know, just because they can't stand it. But I can't even find that kind of negativity anymore. And why? Because they know that right now, with all this crazy volatility and XRP absolutely pumping, it's probably not finished yet. They don't want to look foolish by saying negative, bearish things about XRP when they know it'll probably just keep rocketing higher. Here's the thing. They'll happily trash talk XRP when we're stuck in the depths of a bear market, because then they can get away with it for months or even years before XRP proves them wrong again. But right now, well, let's just say all those critics have gone pretty quiet, haven't they? The answer is definitely yes. Everyone knows this thing's about to absolutely rocket. I mean, come on, everybody knows that. So here's what Greg Crypto had to say. Staying above fib 1.0 at $3.40 is a super bullish sign. And he's absolutely right. That's exactly what the blockchain backer was highlighting too. We've actually closed above that level 3 days in a row now. But here's what he's keeping an eye on. We still need to watch this descending channel. There's a chance we could see a retest down at fib 0.888, which sits around $3.12. If that happens, it would actually be a critical point that could serve as another launch pad for the next big pump. Here's how he breaks it down. If we do revisit that fib 0.888 level, it could actually set us up with another perfect launch pad. But if we skip that retest altogether, well, that would be a clear sign that the bulls are way stronger than he even expected. So yeah, he's just giving us a heads up that we might see a little dip, but here's the key. That doesn't change his big picture outlook at all. We're going to the moon, my friends. That's where this is all heading. It's really happening. So here's a post from chart analyst Mikey Bull Crypto. Now, out of all the XRP chart analysts I follow, this guy actually has the most conservative price prediction for where XRP tops out this cycle. That's exactly why I wanted to share this one next. Here's what he wrote. XRPMACD bullish cross. Last time it occurred, the price went nuts. You can totally see what he's talking about with that green bar lighting up at the bottom of the chart. His targets, $4 to $8. And just so we're clear, he's talking about the cycle top here. I've seen him post about this before, so I know that's what he means. And this guy is definitely an XRP bull. He's not trolling or trying to be negative here. Now, look, I know that might sound low to some of you, and you're probably thinking, oh, come on, seriously? I totally get that reaction. I understand why you might feel that way. And honestly, I'm kind of leaning the same way you probably are. But here's the thing. He's being completely intellectually honest about this. So I've got nothing but respect for him. There's absolutely nothing wrong with him sharing this because it's what he genuinely believes will happen. I just have a feeling that when we look back on this later, there's a pretty good chance we'll be thinking, yo, wow, that was probably the most ridiculously conservative price target anyone could have come up with. Because aside from his prediction, the next most conservative expectations I'm seeing from the chart analysts I follow would be more like what the blockchain backer is saying. He's been talking about $8 to maybe a little over $10 for a while now. I guess that would be the second most conservative take. There are actually a couple of analysts who think we'll land somewhere in that range. And you know what? If he ends up being right, I'll absolutely give credit where it's due. But honestly, I think that would be pretty disappointing for most XRP holders out there. I also don't think that's the most likely scenario we're looking at. Here's what I've noticed from following tons of XRP chart analysts. You've got this interesting spread of predictions. It's not like there are tons of super low expectations, but there are definitely some really conservative ones. And then you've got some sky high predictions on the other end. Most analysts seem to fall somewhere right in the middle, though. And in my experience, that's usually where things actually end up landing. It's typically not the extreme predictions that pan out. So it's probably not going to hit those $50, $40, or even 35 XRP targets. Though, hey, I'm not completely ruling that out. I just don't think it's very likely at all. But it's also probably not going to stay at the lower end either, where we're talking $4, $5, $6, $7, maybe $8. That feels like the low extreme to me. The truth is probably somewhere right in that sweet spot in between. But honestly, I have no idea for sure. We're all going to find out together. And that's actually pretty exciting when you think about it. Here's a post from chart analyst Crypto Wizard, and he's pretty excited. He says, "Isn't it beautiful? What a beautiful call. New all-time high delivered." This was from just this afternoon. He's pointing out something really cool. Back in 2017, after XRP's first big surge, it consolidated for about 210 days before absolutely exploding. And guess what? It took roughly the same amount of time this cycle too. He wraps up by saying, "I'll see you at $4.50. Now, just to be clear, he's talking short term here. That's not where he thinks this whole thing is going to top out. This is exactly what I've been highlighting throughout this year and a lot of last year too. You get one major surge, then you hang out and consolidate for about half a year, and then boom, you get that second explosive move. And that's exactly what's playing out right now. It's pretty amazing how these patterns just keep repeating themselves. The timing has been almost identical to what we saw back in 2017. That's exactly what happened back in 2017, which is what he's pointing out here. And you know what? The same exact structure played out last cycle too. The only difference was we didn't hit a new all-time high because XRP was getting hammered by the SEC at the time. But it's totally true. You can see it right there on the chart. You had that first big pump, then it came back down and got absolutely attacked by the SEC. But guess what? It still went up anyway and hit $2, which became the cycle high for XRP. But here's the exciting part. Since we're in the final phase of this market cycle, I'm telling you, if history keeps rhyming like it has been, you won't have to wait long at all. Actually, let me share something interesting. The blockchain backer mentioned this in his most recent video. Now, he didn't promise anything, but he said it's absolutely plausible that XRP could hit its cycle peak within the next 2 weeks. Now, again, he didn't promise anything. He's just saying that based on everything he knows, the historical patterns, what he's seeing in the charts, all of that good stuff, it's totally plausible that this could happen. That was his main point. And honestly, he's absolutely right. It really could happen that fast. Remember when XRP absolutely rocketed in mid-December 2017? It went from about 20 cents all the way to $3.35. Its all-time high at the time. And that whole incredible run took just 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks. We've already entered price discovery mode here. So yeah, history could definitely rhyme with itself again. It doesn't have to play out exactly like that, of course. Some analysts do think this is going to take longer to unfold. And hey, if they're right, that's totally fine too. All I'm saying is that it's completely reasonable to think something like this could happen. It really could be over that quickly. Can you even imagine double-digit price action for XRP in the next 2 weeks? I have no idea if that's actually going to happen. This isn't a prediction or anything, but it's not crazy to think about it. That's just how close we might be to the end of this thing. Here's a post from chart analyst Bark. XRP is forming a crazy breakout. Short-term target is $5.50 plus. And this is exactly what I keep seeing from all the reputable chart analysts I follow. For the short term, everyone's talking about these kinds of levels, way, way higher than where we are now. If XRP hits the higher end of some of these short-term expectations, we're literally talking about XRP potentially almost doubling in price, and maybe not quite that much in the very next burst, but getting up into that ballpark, absolutely. It's pretty incredible how consistent these targets are across different analysts. They're all seeing the same potential for this next move up, and the numbers are just mind-blowing when you think about it. Here's a post from chart analyst CW. XRP price chart, Fibonacci retracement. 1.618 of XRP is $4.50, and 2.618 is $6.40. These will be the next targets. Again, my friends, this is exactly what I keep seeing everywhere. This is just a small sample. These aren't even all the posts I've seen from the chart analysts I follow regularly. I just wanted to give you a taste of what's out there. This is totally representative of what I keep finding over and over again. And here's the thing. When this many analysts are all saying the same or very similar things, they're almost always right. Whatever they collectively think is going to happen usually ends up happening the vast majority of the time. Sure, sometimes it doesn't work out that way and the improbable happens instead. I've definitely seen that before, but those are pretty rare instances. Usually when this many solid analysts are all saying roughly the same thing, that's exactly what ends up happening. That's just the reality we're dealing with here. Just think back to what I was highlighting from all these analysts in the days leading up to XRP's breakout. I spent probably close to a week pointing out that all these guys were saying the same thing and they don't normally do that. And what happened? Well, they were absolutely right. XRP did break out, it did enter price discovery, and guess what? They're still all saying the same stuff and it's all incredibly bullish. So what do you think happens next? Honestly, I think this thing is going way higher, like way higher. Now, look, I'm not a financial advisor and you absolutely should not buy or sell anything because of what I say or write. That would be a very, very bad idea.